Some folks are like, some people are like, you better read my credentials, and some people are like, let me handle it. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Renshawn. We are so happy to have you, and the floor is yours today.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say it's an honor to be here with you all today. My name is Rashawn Miller. I'm a native of rural North Carolina, Bertie County to be exact. So I like to just start off with, I want to know, like, who am I speaking with? Where are you from? What do you do? Feel free to take yourself off of mute if you want to, or drop it in the chat. Let's see.
Good noonday. My name is Yolanda Ray Henderson. I live in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, by way of Red Springs, which is in Robertson County, down by the North Carolina, South Carolina border. Happy to be here. I'm actually one of the ROI board members, and I am a school counselor here in Edgecombe County. So excited to meet you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Reading just the chat, got Rocky Mount, got Pikesville. Love it. Somebody said that dad is from Lewiston, Woodville. Oh, so I might know your dad. All right, Pine Tops. But by way of Harnett County. Anybody else want to come off of mute and introduce themselves?
Carolina, from by way of New York City, but right now I'm in Tarboro. And I'm also a board member for Rural Opportunities Institute as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here.
I'm Lynn Tepper. I'm a retired judge in Florida, but I'd been working leading up to the creation of ROI. But interestingly, just this morning, I'm on a call because I'm going to be part of the pilot project of teaching the judges in North Carolina the end of August on trauma-informed care. And so we had some terrific psychologists and another wonderful judge from North Carolina talking about what we're going to do, so then it'll grow within the state. We're going to do that to get feedback and move on. So I'm excited to be part of that as well as this.
I love it. Congratulations. That's definitely something that's needed. Just my ties to being able to tap into that community and being able to understand. So one of the things I want to share with you all. Let's see. Can you all see my screen and this worksheet? Okay. So with this worksheet, we were going to go through this a little bit. And feel free to drop it in the chat. I wanted to ask you all, what are some of your biggest stressors right now, especially in the positions that you hold, even with COVID that has been going on, and then also trying to serve the community and all of those. What's some of your biggest stressors at this particular moment?
Transitioning back into the office.
Yes, that's a huge one for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't want to go back to the office. Getting new employees that they have to supervise, work, family, time management.
Yeah, I think finding the balance between work-life balance with everything just being kind of online.
Definitely. I think one of the things that a lot of us realize is when you're working from home, you don't have those boundaries, and you find yourself working more than you normally would. Thank you for sharing. Someone says family, church congregants, raising money. Yes, that's a huge one, especially for trying to provide services for our communities. Anyone else?
I got one more. It would be the simplicity of working from home when I don't have transportation, things like that, where I don't have to other people to get me to these meetings. I can just pop on my computer. So I'm gonna miss that.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a huge thing. The convenience that comes along with the internet. I know we had some troubles earlier, but I mean it's still more convenient than having to drive and travel and do all of that other stuff. Moving forward. So again, I appreciate you all just contributing to that. But I would say one of my biggest stresses has been creating that boundary when it comes down to work-life balance, but then also being able to manage my actual stressors as well, because some of the stuff that I was used to doing before COVID hit is something that I was able to do. So going to the gym was one of the major things for me. I know now we're able to go back into the gyms now, and you can do more exercises and be able to be out more in public and all of those things now. But a year ago, what are some of your outlets that you actually utilize when it comes down to managing your stressors?
Exercise is one for me.
Yes, exercise, cycling, basketball, being around loved ones, exercising, music, comedy, love it. Meditation, yes. It goes along with the grounding exercise we did earlier. Running, joy reading, yes. Remember we gotten through hard things in the past. We can in the future too, yes. Scheduling wellness, yes, that's a huge one. Because a lot of times we fill up our schedules with work and just other obligations, but we forget to take care of ourselves. Walking, journaling, music, meditation, yes, all of these particular things. So one of the things I wanted to just tell you all a story and tie it into the reasoning for us being here today to talk about mental health. So again, I'm from Bertie County. Grew up there, born and raised. I was a 3-sport athlete there. Played basketball, football, and ran track. Graduated near the top of my class from Bertie High School and ended up getting an academic scholarship to the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. During my freshman year at UNC, I actually walked onto the football team and the track team there. And being from rural North Carolina, that transition to UNC was a tough one for me. Not only just because of the demographics there, but then also just trying to manage being able to study, but then also manage playing 2 Division I sports, especially as a walk-on. That was a tough thing. But then also going into, finishing up my freshman year, I actually was almost failed out of school because I wasn't doing too well in college, in my classwork, but then also learning how to transition was a difficult opportunity for me because of the fact of not being able to manage all of the freedom, but then also my identity was a little bit shaken up because I wasn't the person that I was coming out of Bertie High School. During my sophomore year of college, I suffered a knee injury, and so that took me out of sports. And so really my identity was shaken up then because I no longer could lean on the things that would provide me joy and the things that I tied my identity to. So during my sophomore year, I went through a period of depression, but at that particular time, I didn't know what depression was. And I actually stayed in my dorm room. I went through a period where I didn't sleep for about 2 weeks, and went through a period where over a matter of 6 weeks, I lost about 25 pounds. One of these things was the troubling aspect of that, because if you're not getting rest and you're not eating the way you should, a lot of these things play into your mental health. But also one of the major things when that time I started to hear voices, and when I started to hear voices, that was something that scared me. But I was afraid to really talk about what was really going on with me. Can y'all imagine why I wouldn't talk about the voices that I was hearing at that particular time? See some head nods. Yes. I, for one, didn't want to be called crazy, but then for two, I didn't know how to put it into words. As someone that grew up, as I was raised by my family, and I had men in my family. It was strictly by the book. It was more so, men don't cry. Only emotion that you're able to show is anger or happiness. There is none of that other stuff. So when I was feeling these different emotions, I didn't know how to put it into words. But then also I kept it to myself because I didn't want people to ostracize me and throw me out the window. Because a lot of times when we think about just different issues when it comes down to mental health, we don't, lean into those people. We push them away. So I was scared of those things, especially coming out of high school. I was a man coming out of high school. I'm not even gonna lie. And so now I'm thinking like these things can't happen to me, but they are happening to me. So what do I do about it? And one of my saving graces was I'm an only child. And as an only child, I talked to my mom all the time. And my mom could just notice something that was different in my voice. And when she noticed that something was different, she called my cousin who went to Central. And when my cousin showed up to my dorm room, all she could do was cry because I wasn't the Rashawn that she grew up and knew, that she grew up to know. And my hair was all over the place. I'm pretty sure I smelled because I didn't shower. I was super skinny, and I just didn't care. And when she called my mom said, "Get him out of there and take him to your apartment. We'll be there." And 2 hours later, my family showed up at my cousin's house, and they were like, "What's wrong?" Of course, they could see that something was going on with me, but I wouldn't tell them what was going on. I was scared to tell them. So it was like, well, if you're not going to tell us what's going on, we're going to, take you somewhere where you can get the help that you actually need. And to them, that was them taking me to the hospital. So they took me to Duke Medical Center and they put me in the psychiatric ward. One of the things with that was I fought the entire way there, for one. But then for two, when I got there, I ended up punching a nurse because it wasn't intentional, but I was just trying not to go into the psychiatric ward because of the fact that y'all know, when you think about a psychiatric ward, you think about the things that you see on TV. Think about, the institutionalization that you see people going through, and just it's not a pretty scene. So I was terrified to go in there, and I ended up punching the nurse. And when I punched the nurse, can y'all imagine what they did to me? Anybody want to come off of mute and say?
He probably restrained you very well. And that's putting it lightly.
Yes.
Did you get a court case?
I did. Luckily, I didn't get a court case. Get a court case, but they definitely restrained me. So you all see this.
At least you got the jacket and not the chemical.
Ooh, the white jacket.
I got both.
They did both. Okay.
They did both. So I was in a straight jacket, but then also they medicated me as well. So I was sedated. I was heavily sedated for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably one of my lowest moments in my life, to be in a straight jacket in a padded room and you sedated and you looking through a small glass at your family who is crying because they put you in there, but then they're also crying because they know that you're hurt. And they felt like that's where I needed to be. And honestly, that was the place where I needed to be at that particular moment. Throughout my tenure there, it was ups and downs because for one, honestly, when I got there, no one in there looked like me. So I didn't trust anybody in there. I wouldn't talk. I was like, y'all can dope me up with meds or tell me, that y'all here to help me and all y'all. I was like, I'm not listening to y'all. No, I don't trust anybody in here. So I am not saying anything because if I really tell y'all what's going on in my head, y'all gonna keep me in here longer. And I don't know where y'all gonna send me. But my breaking point came from the aspect of being after you being there for a while, you realize that you're really not gonna get out of there if you don't talk. So ended up, talking and then sharing with the things that I had going on. I received a diagnosis of bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features. During that time, I really didn't know what that meant. But then also the doctor didn't do a pretty good explanation of telling me what it meant. But then also I really didn't care. The only thing I wanted to know was, can I get out of here? And they said, yeah, you can leave. But then you got to go see a psychiatrist, you got to see a psychologist, and you got to do therapy and take meds. But then also with that, you don't need to go back to school because that was one of my biggest stressors at the moment, right? And so with that being said, with that being my biggest stressor and me not going back to school, I was like, what am I supposed to do? if I go back to Burt T, now for those of y'all that are familiar with the area, imagine, I'm the man coming out of high school, and a year and a half later, I show back up in Burt T. Y'all already know what that's gonna be like. Everybody gonna be running their mouth. They're gonna be, saying, "Oh, well, why is he home? Oh, he done went crazy," and all of these different things. So I didn't need that and didn't want that. Luckily for me, my uncle lived in Charlotte, and I was able to move to Charlotte at that particular time. And I started to see a Black male therapist, Dr. Kendall Jasper. And Dr. Jasper was able to help me out in therapy, but then also allow me to go see a psychiatrist. And I was able to get better. And during that time period, none of my friends knew what was going on. I disappeared off the face of the earth. I turned my phone off for 6 months. Only people that could contact me was my mom and just like my dad. And they knew how to contact me, and that was through my uncle. But then also with that, I was able to get better, started to calm down the voices, but then also I wanted to go back to school. When I got better though, the thing in my head, I was like, all right, I'm good. I don't need this anymore. I'm cured. I'm gonna go back to being Sean. I'm gonna just pop back up on the scene and just be me. When I got back to school, I stopped taking my meds and I stopped going to therapy. I made up a lie to my friends, where I was, and they didn't ask too many questions. But then my symptoms ended up coming back. But instead of when my symptoms came back, do you all think that I went back to meds and went back to therapy? Nope. What did I do? In return, what did I do?
Self-medicate.
Self-medicate. So my medication of choice at that particular time was this. So this is a smaller version of what I used to drink. So this is Patron, for those of y'all that don't know. This is tequila. I was going through a fifth every other day. And I did that going on, it was over 3 years that I did that. And in college, my friends, and they didn't question me about what I was going through, because that's what we do. But then also let's take it outside of the realms of being in college. Let's think about, when we're working and you have a stressful day and you get off of work and you're just like, yo, I just need a glass of wine, or I just need a drink, I just need a beer. Our society sees this as a norm to be able to self-medicate. And to be able, that's how we relieve our stress instead of us being able to really address our issues. But one of the things for me during this time period, as I was consuming a lot of alcohol, another way I was to be able to go undetected as far as the emotional pain that I was going through, this was the best I was doing in school at the point. And I was holding down a full-time job. So you could say at that particular moment, I was successful, but I was in turmoil on the inside. So a lot of times we have people in our lives, and maybe even some people on this call today, you look very well put together. Like you knock out all your work, you have a lot of family, you have a lot of friends, but you're miserable. That's where I was. During that time, while I was self-medicating, I attempted suicide 3 times. The first 2 times I tried to overdose on pills and had to have my stomach pumped, but then the last time I put a gun in my head and pulled the trigger and it jammed on me. That for me was my wake-up call. Earlier I said, being in the hospital was one of my lowest points, but that last suicide attempt was my very lowest point, because of the fact of a lot of times people look at suicide as something that's selfish or it's the easy way out. I don't see nothing easy about trying to take your own life. But then also during those processes, I was thinking about my family. If I was no longer here, they wouldn't have to worry about me no more. Or they wouldn't have to, deal with, any of the struggles. I would have to be an embarrassment to them if I end up back in the hospital or any of those particular things. But then also I was just tired, man. It was no other real way to put it. I was just exhausted. And as an athlete and stuff, I'm done with physical pain. Physical pain, that's easy. I done had multiple surgeries and all that, but then that emotional pain and then those voices that I was hearing, trying to get away from that, it was tough. And then so from my initial diagnosis, from me being in the hospital until to my last suicide attempt was a matter of 7 years. That was 7 years of me battling that by myself. I couldn't tell anybody. I felt like I was alone. And I got really good at lying to other people to tell them that I was good. So with that, after that suicide, that last attempt, I was like, all right, I got to do something different. Ended up going back and getting on meds, going to therapy. Got better this time, but when I got better, I started to see the world completely different. And as I saw the world differently, I started just noticing stuff in my friends and family. I had a roommate. I tell this story. I had a roommate. He would smoke weed, and he would smoke a lot of weed. He probably would go through an ounce a day. And honestly, we were a dysfunctional household. I was going through a fifth, and he was going through an ounce. But neither one of us would sit there and talk about what was going on with us, because we didn't have the words, or we didn't have that conversation. We didn't have those real conversations about what's going on. So as I got better, I started to notice those signs. I asked him one day, I said, bro, what's going on? He's like, nah, I just needed to get through my day. I was like, nah, what's going on? I was like, I had to tell him everything that I went through. And when I told him, his initial response was, bro, why didn't you tell me? I was like, yo, if I would have told you, what would you have done? If your friend would come tell you right now, or no, let's put it, not even just your friend, someone you're living with right now comes and tell you, oh, I'm hearing 3 distinct voices and I can't sleep at night, what would you do?
Thank God for a mental health background. The first thing I'm going to do is ask, do you feel like you want to live? Do you want to hurt yourself, or do you want to hurt anyone? Those are the 2 main questions. And then give them the support and say, come on, let's go. I'm going to be with you every step of the way.
I love that. I love that.
Because but that's because I have experienced it.
Right.
But now, anybody who hasn't experienced it, I can't speak from that point of view, but I can speak from the point of view of having experienced someone in our household who suffered from schizophrenia. So growing up in that environment, it just made me want to learn more about mental illness. And if I am confronted, or if I'm in that type of environment around anyone, I know how to give them that support. And I'm gonna hear it because I know you're speaking, but the biggest thing in our community is there is such a stigma against mental illness in the African American community. And what I try to do is tell them, look, we have to treat mental illness just like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, any other type of diagnosis. And once you understand how to treat it and take your medicines, it's just like living with it, like any other disease. So, but that's what I would do. I'm hushed now.
Oh, but even with that, even what you said though, what Miss Bottoms Richardson? I'm sorry, I couldn't see your full last name.
It's Bottoms Richardson.
Bottoms Richardson, yes. So even what you said with us understanding, any other diagnosis like diabetes or high blood pressure, let's be real, we still ain't going to the doctor for that either.
Facts. And that's the reason why I stress, if you know you're a type 2 diabetic, I'm watching, because when you come out with me and I know what some of your diagnosis is and what I might know what some of your triggers might be, I'm not going to try to put you in that environment to where you're going to fail or be tempted to fail. But that's because I have experience. And I want to, and I try to educate as much as possible, my people on, we got to stop. We got to change our mindsets. If we're feeling a certain way, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for a therapist. It's okay to talk to a doctor. It's okay, you know, but until, I guess, when we as a people express to our people that it's okay and they see that it's safe, because you made a point that when you went to the hospital, you didn't see anybody that looked like you know, and for you, it made you shut down even more. And it's no different that we, you know, we got to think about our professions. You know, we need to be out there so that our people can see, guess what? I understand. I understand. But if you're in an environment that you don't see anyone you can relate to, I don't care what anybody says. If you go into an area where there's no one that's familiar to you or that you feel you're going to shut down.
Yep,
You're going to shut down.
Agree.
You know,
Agreed.
regardless. So that's one of the things we as a people have to learn, to let our people know it's okay, and try to remove that stigma one person at a time.
Definitely. No, definitely. I agree. And with that, you know, me having that conversation with my friend, we were able to have those real conversations, and I was able to get him to the point of, you know, getting his own help. But then also with that, I started to understand that, you know, I needed to be, you know, that particular change as well. So that's why I went and got my degree in counseling, became a therapist, pursuing my PhD in psychology now. I just got to finish up my dissertation, which I hate working on, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But then also with that, you know, I started a private practice where I have 9 therapists that work with me now, and I have a nonprofit that I do a lot of stuff for mental health awareness and actually do mental health. I actually have a mental health awareness walk coming up in Berkeley County in September. Doing suicide prevention month. So doing a lot of different works that actually goes on in those communities. But one of the main things I wanted to talk to you all, you know, just also mention, it's not just about breaking the stigma, right? But if you're working in these rural areas, also understand they don't have these resources. And so we have to be creative when it comes down to getting these resources to these individuals, whether that be, you know, whether that be connecting them with virtual services, whether that be us being able to. So I host adult coloring nights. So I recently did a coloring night in Berkeley County last Friday, where you know, teaching people actual skills that they can implement into their daily lifestyles to be able to, you know, implement when you don't have a therapist there. And, you know, certain things. So even the grounding techniques that Miss Yolanda did earlier, please implement into your daily lifestyle. Take 5 minutes outside of your day. Give to yourself. Because I know you all are in these capacities where y'all are serving the community. Yo, it's a lot of work. Please give to yourself. I know that, Seth, I know I know I'm almost over time. I mean, when it comes down to, but I wanted to just hone in on being able to address your stressors, no matter what your capacity, no matter what role that you're actually in, but then also please take care of yourself. And one of those things that I do as far as taking care of myself is being able to understand, what are my stressors? How do I minimize those stresses? Do I have to deal with that particular stressor? And I say that because so for me, it's journaling, it's coloring, it's working out, it's you know, watching what food we eat. So I also know, being down in Berkeley County, there is very few healthy options when it comes down to it. Everything is fried, everything got pork in it, all of this stuff. So being conscious of those particular things as well. How much water are you drinking? All of these things still play a major role into, you know, how you actually feel. And then also understanding the people that you associate with. You know, what type of energies are you receiving from these individuals? In my journal, I write down, you know, who I talk to, how I felt before I talk to them, how I feel after I talk to them. If I talk to you 7 days a week and 5 out of those 7 days, I feel like crap after I talk to you, oh, well, dude, I'm about to cut down on talking to you. Because I don't need that energy. I'm going to keep it to the bare minimum. So, like, being able to, you know, do those things, do research on yourself. You are your biggest asset, but you have to treat it as such. And so with that, I mean, I know we only got a few more minutes, and I also have a 1 o'clock, but I wanted to open it up for questions from anyone. You know, I know we went over a whole lot, but I know Seth only gave me like 20 minutes. I do whole workshops on this stuff. So, but no, definitely want to open it up for questions if anyone had it. If anyone had it.
I have a question, and thank you for speaking with us today. This has been very helpful. Particularly, this is for anyone, but particularly for African American men, in a sense. A lot of times, as you referenced, they are taught to man up about it. You don't talk about your feelings, don't be soft. But if you, as a family member, or wife, or sister, brother, whoever, you notice something is wrong and they keep telling you nothing's wrong with me, leave it alone. How do you keep, without crossing the line or pushing them away further, how do you just keep being present and extending the olive branch to get them to talk?
That's a great question. I get that question a lot. I think one of the things is understanding that sometimes you may not be the vessel who needs to deliver that message. You need to work with individuals, whether that be their friend circles, whether that be you'll be amazing what children are able to get out of grown folks too. You know what I'm saying? So like, you may not be that individual to deliver that message, and you got to find out who can deliver that message, who they can actually open up to. And sometimes we have to take our own ego out of that sense. And you want to help them, but you may not be that person to do so. But then also making sure that they are safe. That's another thing. If they are in a situation where you think they're going to harm themselves or harm somebody else, you may have to do extreme measures like my family did to me. But don't be afraid of that, and understanding that, understand what your laws are that are close to you, to have somebody, whether that be IVC'd or, involuntary committed, or, those particular aspects. What resources can you point them to? A lot of times, I do a lot of work, within circles where, especially with therapy. So for me, my therapy looks a little bit unconventional, especially when I'm working with men. Even with men where their wives force them or their partners force them to come to therapy, I still got to get to a point where I make them comfortable. So I'm playing ball with them, or I'm lifting weights with them. Even with my kids, I'm playing video games with them. So like finding ways where you can. It's intimidating to have somebody that sit in front of you and say, well, you need to go get help, or I'm noticing this. You gotta be a little bit more strategic with it, and some things you gotta be a little bit manipulative to get them to understand doing certain things, but as long as there's a benefit for them. But that's a whole other thing that we can go into. But no, I would say initially, work within their circles. And see if you can work within there, because you may not be the person to deliver that message.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I think I got time for one more question. So, anybody? Well, I guess no more questions. Seth, with that being said, I'm going to send you the worksheet that I had up. I know we didn't go through all of it, but I want to send it to you all so Seth can get it to you all. Also, it has my contact information up there. If you can spell my name, you can find me. I promise you, I'm the only one out there that spelled the way it's spelled. So please check me out. I have just different events that I have coming up, even with my nonprofit, and then just going to open up an office down in Bertie County as well. I'm going to have the walk coming up. The date it's the Saturday after Labor Day. I can't remember exactly what the date is off the top of my head, but please check it out. Seth, anything else you need from me, brother?
Just super grateful. Thank you so much for the time, for sharing the message. And I'll turn it over to Vici, but just thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Hey, y'all, it's Vici. Yeah, Renshawn, just super appreciate your story. So wanted to give people a minute to just share any gratitude or closing thoughts in the chat before we continue on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Renshawn, thank you so much for your presentation, your openness, and your willingness to share from your heart. And I pray God's blessings on you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story, my brother. And I need one of those shirts.
Oh yeah. Let me tell you all about the shirt. So the shirt comes from through my nonprofit. All proceeds go to a eustress. And so even with my nonprofit last year, we were able to do over 1,400 free therapy sessions for individuals that couldn't afford therapy. But the shirt says "Check on your strong friend," and I have strong marked out. And the reason why I have strong marked out is because you got to check on just your friends. Period. A lot of times, I know everybody in this chat probably is the strong friend to someone, and you feel like you're neglected at some point in time where they're not, people are not reaching out to just see how you're doing because you're always giving to other people. So this shirt is a reminder to tell people to check on all of your friends and not just the individuals that you consider who may be going through something at any particular time.
All right, put that link in the chat box so we can order some shirts from you, my brother.
Oh yeah, I will do that. I will do that right now. The shirts, the books, and all of that. I'll do all of that stuff.
Thanks, Rashawn. This is Brian Ellerby. Good hearing from you.
What's up, team?
Don't y'all start that on here.
But no, again, thank you all for everything. I'm gonna drop the links in the chat. I actually have a client at 1 o'clock, so my client's they're gonna get mad if I'm not up there. So thank you all.
All right, gotcha, bro.
Awesome. Well, that's tough to follow, but just super appreciated hearing that, and appreciate everyone on here and the awesome engagement. I'm Vici, one of the co-founders of ROI, and then Tyra, who's also on our team, is gonna jump in shortly. But we're just gonna do a real quick overview of just like the mission of ROI and our community strategy and some of the stuff we've been up to, and then you'll hear some additional updates from teammates for the rest of the meeting. But so many of you on the call are partners in the work, so just really thankful to get to connect with you at this meeting. So yeah, quick review. As many of you know, a lot of our goal is around supporting people's healing process from trauma, but kind of the key belief is that we know that individuals are not to blame for the trauma and stress that impacts them, and that resilience is an inner strength in everyone. So it's less about sort of, blaming people for the things they've experienced, and instead thinking about how we change the way our systems operate so that they allow people to more easily tap into their resilience. And we're just really grateful to be located in Edgecombe County, which has such a long history of strength, resilience, freedom fighting, civil rights, and just trying to be one tiny part of a very long story of resilience here. And so to give a little background, we started doing this work about 4 years ago, actually a little over 4 years ago at this point, in East Harborough. We spent the summer interviewing several parents and providers about their experience with trauma and healing and different systems, and then brought a large number of people, and actually in these community meetings, together to build the systems map that visualizes like the patterns underlying the different things people were saying. And what we heard a lot, and kind of the core story, was that the current systems that we have move away from healing trauma because they segregate and isolate people away from opportunities for connection and healing, and that oftentimes our systems are optimized to uphold historical trauma rather than creating the opportunities for people to process that in their bodies and heal. And so the question really was like, is there a way to redesign those systems so that instead they do the opposite and they're actually optimized for healing? And so we did a workshop with community members where they identified some high leverage opportunities, like places where there was energy for change. And there were kind of 3 different things that emerged, and that's become the strategy that we all act against. And so the 3 areas were first about learning. So providing opportunities to learn and educate about trauma and also about resilience. That's kind of, why we have speakers like Rayshawn and also some of the training that we do. The second part was about creating opportunities for systems to shift away from punitive and towards more restorative and healing practices. And then finally, to ensure that as folks are on the journey towards healing, they remain connected to opportunities for school, work, and wealth building. And the vision long-term that was stated by a number of community partners was that those who have experienced trauma and have healed are best positioned to provide healing for others. And so we've been doing various projects in the community around kind of trying to build in those 3 pieces of the strategy into as many spaces as possible. And one of the key steps we took was to build a community board of folks who oversee a lot of the work that we do around how we use resources to actually live out this strategy. And so you've actually heard from some of the board members today, and you'll hear from others. But really thankful for their guidance over the last years to kind of pull us in the right direction. And then Tyra, if you want to jump in to maybe share a little bit about the training work we've been doing.
Yeah, so since last January, we have reached over 13,000 community members through 158 awareness building presentations, which are led by our local resilience trainers, 81 RFR trainers and practice groups, which are also led by our local resilience trainers, and 107 listening circles, which also, again, is with our local resilience trainers. We have paid our local trainers over $85,000, as well as distributed over $150,000 in scholarships to the community. And these are all our local resilience trainers that have helped make all this possible. And if you would like to request a speaker for a speaker or awareness building presentation, there is a form on our website to do that, and we will fill that request with local resilience trainers. And this is also a form to request RFR trainings, and that will also be filled with local resilience trainers. We're all about the community, so yeah.
Awesome. And then just to give a little bit of an update on some of the other initiatives beyond training, we've been continuing to support various local organizations to do biofeedback breathing. So currently the Edgecombe Youth Development Center, as well as Darden Middle School in Wilson, have been some of the latest partners. And so if that's something you're interested in, you can also request a free implementation guide on the website. And you can also follow up with us if you'd like to actually get additional support to do a pilot. And then we're in the middle of the Resilient Leaders Initiative, where we're supporting 4 different local organizations, Word Tabernacle Church, the Edgecombe Courthouse, State Middle School, and the Hope Alternative Program at Tarboro High, to spend 9 months designing and piloting more restorative practices in their settings. So very excited at the end of the year to be able to share what those teams have come up with.
Beachy, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's an important question in the chat box that I didn't want us to miss. Someone is asking the trainings that we offer. Do these include Spanish-led trainings? Because I know we have a lot of our documents now written in Spanish, but could you address that right quick?
Yeah, and this might be a question we could address together. It's a great question. I don't actually know for sure if we have bilingual trainers in our locally certified network. And I know there's been a pause on certifying folks because of COVID. But I guess the question I have, Yolanda, is do you know if RFR, in the broader statewide network, are there?
That is a great question. And I'm glad it was asked. I think in a broader scope within RFR, we do. And I will be willing to reach out and get clarity on that. So I think is, I don't want to pronounce the name wrong.
Rocio Anderson.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I'm not going to try to roll that R.
That's quite all right.
If you don't mind, put your email in the chat, or you can private message me and I will get back with you on that, okay?
All right, thank you. I really appreciate your stopping to ask that question. It is really important considering the population across North Carolina.
Absolutely, and we don't want to leave anybody out. This work is for absolutely everybody. Thank you so much. Sorry, Vici, you can go ahead. I didn't want to miss that important question.
Yeah, no, sorry. Thank you so much for asking it. That's exactly why we have these meetings. So yeah, super great question. Hope to follow up. And similarly, if any of the above, you want to follow up and learn more about those opportunities, please email Tyra probably. And we would love to figure it out. Yeah. And so I think next we're going to have 2 folks from the community share a bit about a project called Lens that we've been doing with the school system. So I think, Yolanda, you might be up first. Turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Vici, and hello again, everyone. She did go ahead and give you my name again. I am Yolanda Ray Henderson, the school counselor over at West, and I was invited to be a part of the Lens and See project, which we just finished up this past June, and it was an amazing project. But the goal of this project was, as you can see, it was a partnership with Rural Opportunities.
You just went on mute, friend.
So sorry about that. So the goal of this project was for community stakeholders, Rural Opportunity, and Edgecombe County educators to come together to figure out different ways that we could test out actions that could, as one, reduce the impact of trauma punishment in schools and provide opportunities for healing and resilience, to utilize human-centered design to process people's experiences before building solutions. So what we did was we created 32 teams, and they were comprised of 18 Edgecombe County Public School members, 6 students, and a number of community stakeholders. I can't see that number at the bottom, but there were several of us all intertwined within the team. For example, my team consisted of a principal, an assistant principal, a couple students, and myself. So this was the project timeline. So we began, it was September before last, correct, Vici? Or was it last September?
I think like almost a year ago.
Yes, okay. So we created project teams in September. Then in October, we went down to do the research and interview guides, followed by interviewing users, which led into creating personas and insight, then brainstorming, creating prototypes and experiments, testing and refining the prototypes, and then down to the final closing with finding out what we actually learned in the process and moving forward from there. So we had some empathy activities, and with those, we conducted 31 interviews, which were through 9 parents, 9 providers, and 13 students, where we went in and asked them a series of questions and to get some better feedback and understanding as to what they thought and what they felt through this process. So for example, Insight 1, one of the statements that was given was the school staff need a way to build shared understanding of discipline with families because, and then the reasons why they felt that way. And then through the interviews, we were able to find the information that you see directly to the right of that. And these were some of the statements that were given by staff, by parents, and depending on what group you were in and who it was that you conducted your interview with, we also received information from just other community stakeholders. We know in Edgecombe County, we have a lot of grandparents raising children, so some of them were grandparents. We even had
Frozen.
Yeah, it looks like she's frozen. This internet stuff today.
Am I frozen or is she frozen?
She's frozen.
Well, I think we can cover here. Byron, are you on?
Yes, I'm in.
Cool. Would you mind maybe just talking a bit about the kind of from the brainstorm? You guys got these insights and then sort of the brainstorming process and then the ideas?
Sure. Well, I'm partnered up with the Lens and Group. We also partner with people in the community, like Mr. Yolanda Henderson said. So we interviewed youth in the community. What we come to find out is that the youth be part of the solution on helping the parents because their parents are going through a lot, whether it's COVID and other things like that. But the kids want to be part of the solution. So we listened to the kids' input and partnered up. We listened to the kids' input, and with the help of Demonica Vick, Naeem Akhtar, Andrew Herring, and myself, and other community leaders, we followed their information and we decided to come up, the kids come up with a podcast. So the podcast is called The Resilient Zone. And the thing about the podcast, what makes it unique is that the kids will be the host of of the podcast. Kids will be interviewing other youth and teach them how to co-regulate. But first, having timestamps where they can take this information back to their parents to show the parents what they learned and have it shared information. So the whole thing was have something with the kids and the parents to sit down and have common language, plus interacting to help kids co-regulate each other, plus their friends. And now we're at the point where kids want to be therapists. They think it's magic. Maybe a 9-year-old girl, she thinks she's doing magic on her friends. So the kids loving it and the things coming from it. Thank you.
Cool. So yeah, to summarize kind of out of the project, that group of folks narrowed down on 4 ideas, one of which was the podcast idea that Byron just described. And then there's a couple other ones that now teams are continuing to work on to hopefully embed into the school district for the next year. Yeah.
Hi all, my name is Camilla. I'm a summer associate at ROI. I'm working mostly on evaluation projects, specifically for the Resilient Leaders Initiative, but I've also helped out with doing some data analysis and evaluation for the Lens project. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the outcomes and feedback that we saw from that program. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
So overall, the feedback about the program was really positive. The vast majority of participants said that they would recommend working on a project like Lens to others, and all of the participants said that they would recommend working with ROI to others. So that's really great feedback. Additionally, the vast majority of the participants had said that they had an improved ability to build trauma-informed environments and use trauma-informed skills. And here's just some representative quotes about people's impressions or experiences with the program. People really emphasized that the collaborations that they were able to build with others in the community were something that was really powerful. And also the leadership skills that people were given through this program. So these quotes, like, I was able to enhance my leadership abilities by putting myself in the position to lead, and the community that I'm now connected to is priceless. Additionally, as Byron and Yolanda talked about, there were some really great products that came out of this, and people were really able to use the design thinking process and enhance their design thinking skills to really create some really great projects. Cool, so now I'll hand it over to Seth.
Thanks, Camilla. Yeah, so real quick section here, just very excited to introduce our Small Bets Summer Associates. Camilla just did a great job sharing data. And the idea behind Small Bets is there are really challenging issues that might be more risky that we want someone to own and investigate for the summer. And so the Small Bets Associates have been working full-time in Tarboro and Rocky Mount on a specific project. So you'll hear from each of them on what their project is, and just really excited to introduce them today. And the first project, Jesse is a small bet intern where he spent the summer researching different transformative technologies that could be used in a community setting to help heal trauma and stress. So this is really a small bet around expanding the biofeedback breathing program and seeing if there's other technologies that could be useful to community members and community groups. And I'll turn it over to Macy.
Hey everyone, really glad to be here. My name is Macy. My project for the summer is mostly focusing on how to get more resources to grassroots and youth leaders in the county. And so, yeah, I've been also doing some design thinking processes to do that. And just wanted to put a quick plug in here. If any of you have any ideas or would like to attend a brainstorming session around this, I would love your feedback or to hear from you, and I'll put my email in the chat. Hand it over to Graham.
Sorry, couldn't figure out how to unmute while screen sharing. But thanks, Macy. Hey everyone, I'm Graham. I'm a grad student as well, and interning with ROI for the summer. So what I've been working on, I have two projects. One is trying to figure out if ROI can help other communities do the systems mapping work that we did. And so same with Macy, if you have thoughts on that, I'll put my email in the chat. But the one I wanted to spend a couple of times, a couple of minutes today talking about is the policy work that I'm doing. So as ROI has been working in the Edgecombe community for several years now, we've keep running into the concept of policy change. Like ROI has its ear to the ground in a sense with meetings like this, works with a lot of leaders in the community and has those roots. But oftentimes people come to us asking for like our policy opinion or what we can do, and we kind of have a gap there. So I've been interviewing people in the community about that, and you don't have to read this whole slide, but basically what I came up with was it would be really helpful for ROI to develop a process by which we can sense issues that are bubbling up from the community, and then turn those into policy recommendations. So that's what I'm hoping to do with this. Again, a lot of words, don't really need to read the slide. But the point is that we go from the first part, which is sensing issues in meetings like this, to policy development. So what's a proposal we can change? And then hopefully to a third part where we partner with another organization, which is still TBD, that has more of that advocacy capability, because ROI has the capability of listening and connecting with the community, but we don't have a separate capability for like changing policy at the county commissioner level. So that's where we're looking for partners. So I actually am trying to sort of like pilot this right now, and we don't have that much time. So I'm just gonna actually ignore this slide. I guess just focus on the first question in the slide. I'm just gonna let the time go for about a minute, and I would really interested to see if anyone on the meeting has policies that jump to mind that they would like to change. And ideally these would be county level policies, but really don't let that limit your thinking. So this could be anything from something we've been looking into, like SROs in schools. Maybe they should be used more as mental health counselors, or it could be a workplace policy, like we should mandate family leave. It could be anything. So that's what we don't have much time, so I'm just gonna let it run for 45 seconds to a minute, and just put it in the chat. We'll save the chat, and that'll be data for us. So yeah, ready, go. So don't feel like you have to come up with the perfect answer or anything, just literally whatever comes to mind. Sort of trying to see if this works in real time.
Quick question while we're looking at these questions. Are these questions for community members or for leaders in the communities?
They're for community members.
Okay.
And yeah, and these other questions are sort of to just jog your memory, or get topics on your mind. We were going to have a longer session with polls, but we don't have time for that. So don't feel like you have to respond to these issues themselves.
It's just that I'm getting myself or putting myself on the community as a community member side. And if I looked at this question, because it's so broad, it sounds like a huge question that I may not necessarily know how to answer.
Yeah, definitely makes sense, which actually brings us to the next part of what I was going to talk about, which is that I know that this is not near enough time to discuss these things. And what I'm really hoping to do is gather like interested groups of people who are in the community or whatever role you have, and to sort of conduct listening sessions and just discussions on like what are the issues that are bubbling up for you, and from there we'll move to like how can we fix them. And I am seeing it as like a process where we go back and forth. So we come up with issues in those sessions. We work with the policy partners that ROI has to sort of propose things, and then bring them back to the community meetings and have them further refined. So that's kind of the larger vision. And my email is here. I'm also in the feedback form, which I hope everyone fills out at the end of the meeting. There's going to be an option to say like would any of these times work for you to come to a more focused meeting on policy. So that would be awesome if people are interested. And if this doesn't sound like something that ROI should be doing and you're like not interested, then also should tell us that, because we're trying to decide if this is something that we should pursue. But that's it for me. Thank you everyone for your time and attention. And I'm going back to Tyra now.
Yeah, hi guys. Once again, I'm Tyra and I'm the operations coordinator for ROI. I'm just going to share some real quick org updates.
Do I have to stop? Sorry. I may have been blocking. I just stopped.
Thanks, Graham. Thank you. So once again, here is the form to request a speaker or awareness building presentation. It's on our website. Here's also the form for requesting RFR trainings. Yeah, so please contact us on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, NC Rural Opportunity on Facebook and @Rural Opportunity on Instagram. And please visit our website and, talk to us. Our next meeting will be Thursday, October 28th, same time, same place. You will get reminders closer to that date. Also, there will be a feedback form. The link will be dropped into the chat. If you complete it, you will be entered into a raffle to win one of the shirts from Renshawn's organization. And yes, here is the link. The link to the Google survey. It will be dropped into the chat. And I just want to leave a few minutes for anyone to share gratitude in the chat if there is any. And thank you for attending. And I will be turning it over to our MC, Miss Yolanda, for a closing resilience tool.
Okay, thank you so much for everything. This has been really amazing. The time goes by really quick. I feel like most of us enjoyed Renshawn. He was just so amazing. It's like crazy that we only had that much time because his passion was just so evident. We could have heard more. All the great information that has been shared today. We are so grateful. Seth, do you want me to go ahead and close with the grounding activity or? Okay, cool. We're down to the end of our meeting and we're going to ask that you participate in this last activity with us. We appreciate everybody sitting with us today. This particular activity is called a rapid reset. And before I go through this, which won't be long at all, just want to remind everybody to check the chat box. There are some awesome, very awesome resources that people have dropped in the chat box. A lot of links that Seth and Vici have shared for other things that are important for you guys to know. So try not to close out without checking the chat box. All right, so this last tool goes hand in hand with building your resilience and what we do when we offer trainings in terms of healing from traumatic situations or stressful situations. It's a rapid reset and it's pushing up against a wall. So I'm gonna read it and then I'm gonna invite you to participate in it with us. It sounds kind of like, really, Yolanda, push up against a wall? But I wanna tell you how this helps. When you're pushing up against the wall or pushing up against a table or pushing up against a hard surface, you are doing it with intention and you're bringing your attention to the sensations of pushing. You're trying to regulate and reset your central nervous system. So you're noticing the bottom of your feet on the ground as you're pushing up against the wall. You're noticing the sensations of the pressure of your body touching the wall. And you're noticing your arm muscles, your shoulders and your legs and the sensations that are happening as you're pushing up against the wall. The key to this is taking time to notice where you feel positive sensations or neutral sensations in your body. What do you notice about your breathing, your heart rate, your muscle tension, and how your physical body responds to it? So I'm going to invite everybody, if you want to participate, to stand up. in the space that you're in. And if you feel more comfortable turning your camera off, that's fine. If you want to keep it on, that's fine. But hopefully you can see me in my space. And I'm gonna push up against this wall in my space. And I invite you to do that. And I'm gonna talk you through it. Literally just place your hands on the wall and push up against it with your arms straight if you can. And if it's uncomfortable for you for any reason, maybe due to any limitations you have, then you can improvise and reset the position for what's comfortable for you. But push up against the wall with all your pressure, almost like you're trying to push the wall through or push your hands through the wall. And as you push, kind of make sure your feet are flat on the ground and you're also pushing up against the floor or the ground. Try to let your head and your shoulders relax. And just notice any sensations in your arms as you push up against this wall. Notice any sensations in your legs and your feet against the floor as you push. Notice if there is any particular temperature of the wall, any temperature against your hands. I'm noticing some people are kind of rocking as they're pushing up against this wall or the table, and that's totally fine. What sensations come to you in your body as you do this? Literally take a moment to notice your breathing. Does your breathing get deeper or more shallow? Do you notice yourself taking an inhale and an exhale that actually feels good? Notice your heart rate. Notice your heart rate. Does it seem to remain the same or slow down? And whenever you're ready, you can release the wall and move your feet and your legs around and come back to your seat or your space. And that is a rapid reset that could have been done for a lot longer. But again, the purpose is to notice the energies, the charges and releases that happen within your body as you're pushing up against that wall. And if you do that practice during a stressful moment or a moment where you just kind of need to release, it actually does help. But the intention is in the noticing the sensations in your body while you do it. So as I did before, I invite anybody to unmute and share what that brief reset was like for them. Hopefully you actually felt a brief reset in your nervous system and the way you were feeling. Anybody like to unmute and share what that was like for you?
Well, I must say, Yolanda, that when I was presenting earlier and my computer died suddenly, I felt some tension and some anxiety of, oh my gosh, I got to get back up here really fast. And in the process of that, it never went away until we did the rapid reset. And I didn't push against the wall, but I did push against the table. And I no longer feel the anxiousness and the intimidation of missing some of what I needed to present. But now I just feel how I was able to release that negative energy into the table, and what the muscles in my legs are tightened. My arms are even a little more tighter than what one of them originally was. And now I can just feel all of that instead of the tension I was feeling.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Yolanda. I always ask for feedback because I know it feels a little weird if you're not used to these activities, but I like to hear the feedback as I notice how folks realize that it does work. We don't make this stuff up. There's science behind this that proves how the nervous system responds, and I'm very passionate about it. And if you want to hear more about it, like Seth and Vici shared earlier, you can request a free 90-minute presentation for us to come out and share more of these tools with you, how to work with your own nervous system and build your own resilience. But thank you so much. It is right on the dot, according to my time, 1:30. We are so grateful. We don't like holding folks more than what we said that we would do. Thank you for your time with us, your patience with us, and we hope that you learned a lot today. And please remember the feedback survey after the meeting. The link is in the chat box, and we hope to see you for our next community meeting, and bring somebody else when you come. Vici and Seth, it's on you. We're good.
You crushed it. Thanks, Yolanda. Bye, everybody.